Hello, Internet. We have a special guest today that came in for repair. The guest's name is some kind of Asus FX517Z F15. Owner of this thing said that this thing is artifacting. Today we're gonna plug this thing into the wall using this fancy power adapter that you can only buy at northridgefix.com. Don't tell him I sent you. And figured out what's wrong with this thing. He said, if I'm not mistaken, something along the lines of artifacting. And so today we're going to be trying to get this thing to artifact so that we can, hopefully we have access to the laptop to begin with. I mean password and all that good stuff. So I'm going to power it on and see what it does, and I'll show you in just a second. The screen shows me nothing. There's nothing on the screen at all. No artifacts. Maybe one giant black artifact that's covering the entire screen. I'm no laptop expert. I'm gonna try to get an image out of the HDMI, so maybe that will do anything. And also keep in mind that when your laptop had been off for a while, such as this one, it takes quite a bit of time for it to boot. Especially with the laptops that do not have a CMOS battery on them. So it's like after a certain amount of days, I think, with them being off, they kind of have to reinitialize the whole system. I don't know, just weird. These modern laptops are just kind of crazy. But we're gonna wait for this thing to boot. The caps lock is responding. I think I see the indicator of the SSD NVMe activity, but there's absolutely nothing on the screen, and there's absolutely nothing, as you can see here, on the HDMI output, which is completely not what the customer had said was happening. So, not the first time the customer tells one thing, but I get something completely different. Who knows? Who cares? So let's go ahead and power this thing off. That's very interesting. So, I don't know. I kind of wonder, i7, well, if it's got an Intel CPU, you would think it would have some kind of an iGPU on there, so it would have a display. But I guess it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe somebody had already been poking around here, which I would not be surprised because I am actually missing. As you can see here, I'm missing a screw here and I'm missing a screw there. Like I said, I'm no laptop expert. So if this doesn't get fixed, then all I can say is I tried. And hopefully this isn't going to be one of those laptop repairs that I had to fix for free. In one of my videos from a while back that's still hunting me down with Reddit posts. Which is kind of funny, I go to that Reddit post and I read it's like 95% of people on the Reddit have like zero brain functionality to do any kind of investigation or like no common sense whatsoever. They just kind of go with the masses. So if the masses started making fun of me, everybody just started pitching in, yeah, you shouldn't have even taken it. You shouldn't have this, that, and whatever the case may be. The problem was, laptop came dead. It was sent back to the customer working, about 95% functional. I couldn't fix the Wi-Fi, and I forgot to tell the customer that I couldn't fix the Wi-Fi because there were so many emails, and just somewhere along the lines the email got lost. And I just ended up not telling the customer that I was unable to fix the Wi-Fi issue because he ripped off the antenna socket from the board, and I had no sockets available at the time, so I ended up not doing anything about it because I simply couldn't do anything about it at the time. So who cares? He ended up crying on Reddit, and I gave him full refund, and he still wasn't happy. So why do we get no display? So first thing what I want to do is I want to figure out whether or not this thing has iGPU to begin with. So that way it should, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm no laptop expert. So let's say if I have no iGPU here and I'm expecting to get an image out of the motherboard thinking that I'm getting an image from the CPU, I'm just being an idiot. because if there's no iGPU, then the image should be coming from the GPU instead, in which case that would be my point of interest. But right now we're not getting anything out of the iGPU, so I mean we're not getting anything out at all. I just don't know the source of the image output. Not to mention, we could have problem with the we could have a problem with the LCD itself. I don't know. I don't have a working LCD to plug it in and try, but even if that was the case, at the very least, the HDMI should have an output of some sort, but it doesn't. So first order of business: disconnect the battery. So let's do that real quick. There we go. The battery is now disconnected, and I want to go ahead and disassemble the cooler so I can have a look at the markings on the CPU and Google that and see if the CPU does have an iGPU in there. And if it does, then I'm guessing every laptop genius there is, their first thing that they like to do is to, especially when it comes to Asus, they like to get the best performance out there. What they do is they force the GPU being primary display. How does that boost their performance? I have no idea. Because if you think about it, in theory, well, that's just my theory. Like I said, I'm no laptop expert. But I'm guessing if you're getting a display out of the iGPU, and then the whole powers and the calculation of 3D load comes from the GPU itself, then you're kind of offloading the GPU, the display part of its calculations. So, and you're just kind of leaving it on the CPU with the built-in graphics adapter there. So it'd probably be better. I don't know. I'm no expert. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the cooler off and see what I find. So anyway, who cares? And it looks like this particular CPU does have iGPU, which is good. What we need to do now is we need to figure out why does this thing not even posting an image on a screen. So either we have problems with a cable here, or we have problems with the BIOS, or like people try to flash BIOS to solve all of the problems. So what I gotta do is I'm going to reflash the BIOS just to make sure. That's not easily done. We have to get the BIOS from, we gotta find a proper BIOS from the manufacturer. Then we need to extract it. Then we need to figure out whether it contains the EC BIOS with the main BIOS or not. But I was getting no sound, so I'm guessing. Well, I can't really say. Just because I wasn't getting sound, I can't say that means the operating system didn't load, because nowadays the operating system loads without giving you any kind of sound, so that's just annoying. And how do I know if the operating system had been loaded at all? Is I have no idea. I'm completely helpless at this point, because I don't know if the operating system loaded or not when there's nothing on the screen and when there's no sound playing. So I don't know if there's a way to know whether or not the operating system had been loaded. I'd like to hear it. Though I could, theoretically, I could plug the USB after giving it enough time to load and see if there's if the new hardware detection sound would play. I guess that would be one of the methods. So I guess I could probably try that and see if the operating system booted. It's trying to boot, so we're just gonna sit in here and wait to see if the thing posts anything at all. I don't see any activities on the cooling fans. They're not moving. Nothing on the screen, so let's go and plug in some kind of a USB device like this. Hopefully we'll boot it all the way. So the caps lock is still not Yeah, caps lock isn't responding, so I guess we might still be loading though. Hard to say. So I'm gonna wait until the caps lock starts to respond, and I'm gonna give it a few more seconds and then try again. Or I could just take this little initialize tester. This is basically ST-Link. This is a programmable chip that can be programmed to do various things. And in this case, it was programmed to just basically blink rapidly when there's an activity or a data exchange happening inside of the USB port, which basically serves as an indicator that the system had initialized. So if we plug it in, and if we look at the light here, and when it blinks like this, I'm not exactly sure what that means. Usually the blinks are a little bit less frequent, and that's an indicator of a no boot. System does not initialize. And when the system is initialized, or at the very least in the process, it would blink rapidly and randomly, not like a steady pulse like you see here. So I do not know what's going on. The fans kicked in, forced this thing to shut down, and I'm going to let you see what that indicator does when we power the board or the laptop. So we're powering this thing on. See how the pulses are like 1 second apart or so, and then it starts to blink rapidly. So that's an indicator that there's an initialization going of some sort. So it's basically almost corresponds to the hard drive access to some degree. But when you see this blinking very rapidly, that's an indicator that is at least trying to initialize. And looks like the caps lock is responding, as you can see. If the caps lock stops responding, or the light starts blinking as we've seen before, then we got a problem. But we still have nothing on the screen, so I don't know. Another thing I can do while I wait is to see if the backlight is down, but we might still be getting an image. So if I were to shine a flashlight on the screen, I might be able to see an image of some sort, though that's kind of an old school. It might not even work on these modern screens. I do not know. Like I said, I'm no expert in this. I don't see even the slightest hint of a picture, so I don't know. If the system had been initialized after all that time, then at the very least we should hear a sound coming from the speakers as soon as I plug in this USB drive. But will we? Nope, no sound. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and reflash that BIOS chip just to make sure that it didn't get messed up by the whoever possibly tried to fix this before. Because BIOS is usually the last place to look at, so in this case, that'd probably be the first place to look at. So let's look at that. And what I'm going to do, I don't want to desolder this, but I do want to put a little bit of leaded solder onto the pins of this chip. And the reason for that is to make my probe connect to that chip a little bit easier. Just a little bit of fresh solder. See that? Just like that. And a little bit of here. Right there. Yep. I think that's going to be perfect. And I'm going to be using this programmer. This is a version 4. And too expensive, I think. And this kind of adapter. So that way I don't have to desolder the chip. Basically all I gotta do is to align that to the chip, press it down, and it should make contact with the pins. The only challenge with this is that I have to keep it absolutely steady, so that because that process usually takes a few, maybe a couple of minutes. And let's do that, see if that helps. So we're gonna have to manually select what we're trying to flash. So this is an SPI 25 flash. Connect or attempt to connect to the chip and read the ID. And it read the ID. IC not responding, so either we failed to properly connect. So we're just gonna continue on trying to get that chip to read the ID. So it says that the IC is not responding while the pins are okay. So it's not complaining about the pins, though it is kind of hard to say if the problem with the connection is real or not. So I guess there's really no other choice but to desolder the chip. And what I'm going to be using instead is, I'll show you what I'm going to be using. I will be using this little thing, and this little thing allows me to house two different types of BIOS chips. We're going to be using this one here. So basically the chip goes in, gets locked into place, and then we're going to be using these pins to connect to the interface of the of our programmer. Don't know where you can find one. So see this right there, it says QFN adapter is what it is. This was 8.6 millimeter and 6.5. So that's what you're going to be looking out for if you want to buy one. Alternatively, you can just solder the chip directly onto the PCB, but I think this one's easier, so you don't have to solder it too many times. Just makes it easier. Not necessarily better, but just easier. So let's go ahead and just solder that chip real quick and plug it into here and flash it with whatever BIOS that we found on the internet. Alright, chip is plugged in. Let's read the ID. Pin's okay. And the chip can actually now be read. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. And I will save the dump just in case. And then flash it with the newly acquired file. That way we have a backup just in case. Flash is complete. Verify OK. I also acquired another BIOS from Batcaps. So we could try that if that doesn't work. So let's solder the chip back onto the board and see if it works. Alright, here we are. Let's see if we get a picture from this thing now. We're going to be watching our initializer. Again, remember these short pulses means nothing but power. Once it starts going crazy, that's when you know it starts to initialize. Or at the very least, yeah, it starts to initialize or initialized already. So as you can see now here, we get a very fast pulses. So that means that the hub is in the operational mode, sort of. And the pulses that are like that, they're kind of short, but they're not as short as the first ones. That means something is hung up. Okay, I waited long enough. I still have no image, so one more BIOS to try. If that BIOS does not help, then we're gonna revert to the original. And another thing I noticed, as you can see here, we have a little nipple here. That's an indicator that the screw was too long and it drilled into the plastic. Well, there we have it. We finally got it to boot. But which means the problem was the BIOS, but the owner had just mentioned to me that he was flashing BIOS on the GPU as well. I don't see any devices to boot from. Don't know why that is. It's not telling me anything about the storage. It says storage devices not present. We could still have a problem with the BIOS, so let me go ahead and see if I can do anything with the BIOS and try again. Okay, so I tried to do some sort of BIOS tricks, nothing really worked. And what I do now instead is I flash the BIOS that worked, that doesn't detect drives, and I also downloaded the BIOS from the official website, and I'm using the Easy Flash utility from the BIOS menu to upgrade whatever BIOS that I had available, so hopefully that fixes the problem with the detection of the drives. So fingers crossed. Finally managed to find the BIOS by looking up the motherboard number rather than the laptop model. So all the drivers are now working. The problem is that the pin that the customer supplied no longer valid, so it has to be reset. So always forget about the pin when I tell the customer to send the laptop. Got to remember that at some point. But like I said, I don't specialize in laptop repairs. I don't do this every day, so I tend to forget a lot about, especially when it comes to locked accounts and whatnot. And I don't really want to use my own SSD because it's just a pain in the butt to install all the drivers and everything. So we got some errors on D0. Let's see if we can figure out what the D0 would be on this thing. So the issue I'm having now is that I don't know if problem is the chip or the problem is the core, because the chip is at the corner of the core. So it could be the core, could be the guy pressed too much on the board, read pads from under the core or whatever. Now we have issues. Or it could just be terrible memory, which I would not be shocked. No more errors on D. So I think we fixed the problem without even seeing it in the first place. And I've already tested the for artifacts. There were no artifacts. So after all, it looks like we had corrupt BIOS and dead chip. The other problem I have now is we have hardly any connection between the GPU and the cooler. So we're gonna need to fix that. I'm guessing it's because he applied too much putty everywhere. I don't know. All I know is that the GPU just doesn't seem to contact the cooler very well. You will see it in just a second. You can see that we have very bad connection between the GPU die. See right there. So we're not getting good contact with the cooler. So how do we go about fixing this? Well, that's a good question. Some PTM 7950 from lttstore.com that I have left over from somebody. And there we have it. We got good temperatures on the GPU and the hotspot. Not even 10 degrees, about 7 degrees delta. That's very good. So we're running full load. It's running at X8. I'm not sure why it's running at X8. Possibly because we're using NVMe drives. I do not know exactly the specifications of this laptop, so I'm guessing that's normal. Who knows? So we can turn that off. The CPU is 62 degrees, 66 on the GPU, and we can probably run benchmark for superposition and conclude with this repair. So thank you for watching, and hopefully I've earned your like. Also, as you can hear, the speaker on the right is okay, but the speaker on the left, yeah, the speaker on the left is junk, so maybe we can replace the speaker if I had one, but I'm gonna have to guess that the owner's gonna have to deal with that himself because I don't have speakers. But other than that, my only concern at this point was getting this thing running without artifacts, and it is, as you can see. And like I said, to any of my viewers who are wanting to send their laptops to me for repair, I don't specialize in laptop repairs. I'm willing to take them, but you know, if you're not satisfied like that one a-hole who gave me a completely dead laptop that I managed to fix, with the exception of the Wi-Fi antenna socket that he ripped off the board. I got his laptop completely fixed. It was working 99.9%, you know, minus 1% of the Wi-Fi antenna. And he still went on Reddit crying about it and got a full refund in the end, and still did not remove his post. And that post is hunting me down to this very day. Almost lost sleep the other day about it, but who cares? If you want to send your laptop, I'm more than happy to take it. And if you're planning on crying to Reddit about it, if I can't get it fixed, then you should take your laptop to Northridge Fix. He'll be sure to deem it a no fix, charge you a hefty both way shipping fees and repair attempt fees and the expedite, and you'll get stuck with a brick. And have a blessed day. Goodbye. So another thing I should mention is that I'm not detecting any additional displays. I'm trying to detect the display and it just doesn't detect any with the HDMI cable connected. I don't know why that is. I'm guessing because the BIOS is not original, so we're having issues with hardware. Could be some sort of advanced BIOS settings that I do not know how to access. Again, like I said, I'm no specialist in laptop repairs. So that's it. Hopefully this isn't too disappointing. And if it is, feel free to leave me your hate comment in the comment section below. And I'll be sure to remove it. Goodbye.